What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. We are back here with the boys from Last Word on Spurs, Ricky and Macca. And you know what? We beat Man City last week. We were all in jubilation after that, and we have backed it up with a win, people. And not just a win, we've absolutely smashed Aston Villa at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium by 4-1. We can see the smiles on the boys' face. Ricky, Lee, how are we doing, my friends?
Yeah, good, thanks, boys. Like I say, it's quite nice. As I said often in the show, I want to be proved wrong. I want to feel that when I come on here, that I've got egg on my face, and it's great to see the boys performing really, really well. And credit where it's due. I think you boys know that I've been fairly critical about our lack of consistency since the start of the season, and to have a week like we've just had is really good for the players, really good for the manager, and special credit to Ange Postecoglou. I think I've said a lot with him that we need to see in this second season learnings, game management, tweaks being made at the right time. I think when you look at what he's done over the course of the last week, I think he would have given many Spurs fans real genuine belief that he has shown that adaptation, he's shown that he can tweak when necessary. And look, that's, I think, all what we want. I think as fans that aren't maybe fully on the train, as Crackers said, you might be in platform 2, you might be slightly behind in terms of first class. You want to be proven wrong by a manager and felt, no, you should be fully 100% behind him. And like I said, it's flawless what he's done the last week. He's given every Spurs fan a smile on their face. And I think, again, probably to come on to Lee's point, trust the process.
Absolutely. Come on. Macca, a week's a long time in football. How you doing, my friend?
Week, mate. A week. Can you hear me okay? Just getting some interference.
Perfect.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we was all down in doldrums after the Crystal Palace game. And then, like you say, 6 days later, Ben, and quite say that we're on cloud 9. But ultimately, we're in the mix, aren't we? For sure. So it was a very good performance. I watched both our shows actually. I wasn't on last week after the game, and I obviously watched your shows as well, Ben and Sim. And I have a slightly different take on the first half. To be honest, I thought it was weird when I come out of the stadium. I've done a quick video. Just on my quick thoughts. I hadn't watched anything, I didn't see anything. But my thoughts were, I actually said it was a bit like a boxing match. It was a little bit, you have a jab and we have a jab and they had a little jab. And actually, when Ange described it, he described the first half as an arm wrestle, which I thought was quite interesting because that's how I saw the game. I didn't think we were bad. I didn't think they were bad. I think it was two teams trying to figure each other out, to be honest. And we really did figure them out, didn't we, in the second half, lads? Because it was an absolutely scintillating performance in the second half. And what we've come used to seeing, I suppose, in Ange ball is real bursts of high energy. I think he called it 2 or 3 higher gears, but higher energy where teams just can't live with us. I take us back all the way to Brentford at home last season, where I think it was a 7 or 8 minute devastation spell of scoring 3 goals, and we've done that a few times, haven't we? Brentford again this year, and West Ham again in the second half. We did it again with Aston Villa. So I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. Well, it's a great thing, to be fair. I mean, we're showing that we're a team that can't be lived with, and that is a huge trait. I don't want to go too mad here, lads. But that is a huge trait where you
get carried away, Lee. It's time.
Liverpool, these types of teams that have the ability to go and blow teams away really quickly. And I think if we can transfer that into our away form, which obviously is going to be a concern, and I'm sure we'll touch upon that, we are going places. I said before the season on Last One on Spurs, I think we finished 3rd. People thought I got ridiculed. They atted me, which people have been doing. I put a post out about Glenn Hoddle a couple of days ago, getting our motto wrong. I've been battered by the Levy Out crew, absolutely battered by them, because I said that Glenn got our motto wrong. Wow, amazing stuff. So you can come at me if you want with regards to the Glenn Hoddle motto, with regards to finishing 3rd, but if you look at the underlying data that you saw on Monday Night Football yesterday, what Berbatov was talking about, you saw the underlying data on our last show that we did as a 4, what Sim was talking about, and now you're seeing some of the, not only the performances, but the results starting to bear fruit. We're in the mix, lads. And it's weird, but we are right in the mix here, because that amazing Arsenal title-winning, bashing everybody down team, amazing defensive record, and yet we're 2 points behind them. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, and
We'll get into Arsenal.
We'll get into Arsenal a bit later, but we've scored the most goals in the Premier League now. We are, in terms of how many goals we've conceded, it is level with the best defence that's ever seen in the Premier League and the best defence in Europe, which is Arsenal. So we've conceded the same amount of goals as them.
And City as well.
But when we're talking about Ange Postecoglou, there's been a narrative about him that, his in-game management is poor. He doesn't make tweaks during the game and tactical tweaks and sub-tweaks to, swing the result and swing the game into our advantage. But, Ricky, we're seeing that a lot, aren't we, over the past couple of weeks, where he's making changes, he's making small tactical tweaks in games to really swing the game in our advantage, isn't he?
He's been faultless, Ben, over the last week. Absolutely faultless. You can't fault what he's been doing. When you look at the back of the previous week where we were all down, of course, after that really disappointing defeat we had to Palace, feels like a long time ago now, boys, to be honest with you. That week coming up to face Man City in the Cup, and we all discussed and we all said how that game and what it would mean to us all. And then on top of that, to go and follow up against an Aston Villa side, that, to put it into context, Villa were, I think, unbeaten away in the last couple of months. They were a side that was flying. All season. I think only Arsenal, they had the only defeat to Arsenal. So to go and do that against a Villa side where we were depleted in terms of not having our first available 11, we had that situation where, we had, I think, 7 or 8 of the first team that played against City. To put in that performance, I can't find a fault. I really can't find a fault. And I struggle to find anyone that can find a fault if you're genuinely behind this team, this manager and this side. Again, I've had my times where I've been concerned, and I think I'm right in doing so. I think, second season is all about learning, adapting, trying to find new solutions to be able to remedy the problems of last season. For me, what I wanted to see, as I said, is massive improvement. And I think when you look at the respective fixtures in relation to this season and then obviously the previous seasons, I think we're already a couple of points up on that. We've scored more goals, we've conceded less goals. So all the patterns of players showing you there is genuine improvement there. There's nothing to show you that we're going backwards in relation to the respective fixtures of last season. So now is a time where I think we do need to trust the process, get behind the manager. And I think I will make this point clear because I don't want to be a hypocrite. I think there will be difficult days in the office. There will be days that we are going to have disappointments. But the key is that we're going to have less of those disappointments and we're going to iron out that work consistency. That is really, really key. And I think as long as we're seeing that with the players across the season, we're going to have a really good season. We're heading into, like I say, mid-November. We're still in all the cup competitions. We've got a really exciting glamour tie to look forward to in the Carabao Cup against United. We've got FA Cup to kick into play. We've obviously got Galatasaray coming up on Thursday, where, again, because of the start we've made to the Europa League group, we're now in a position where we can rotate, we can tweak. And I don't want to, cause a head loss here, but it's not the end of the world if we don't get the most positive result in Turkey because of what we've done so far already in the group. So all signs are pointing towards, progress for Tottenham. I think now is a time where the players deserve that support to get behind the manager, get behind the team, because we've got some really exciting games to come. And I think what this team has showed us is that on their day, they are capable of beating anybody, but it is just finding that consistency and that willingness of the players to be able to motivate them, with no disrespect to maybe some of the smaller fixtures, then we're playing against a City, or dare I say a Villa or a Liverpool or a Chelsea coming up. So that'll be the key.
You know what I love about the last 2 wins is after the Palace game, there was I think Vicario said it after the game, I think Decky was saying it as well, that lack of fight, that lack of willingness to win in a different way, do different things to win games. Because obviously we play pretty football. We know we're a very good footballing side. And on our day, when we get those patterns of play going, we're so great on the eye to watch. But obviously after the Palace game, Ange was saying it a bit, and so was Vicario after the game, that there was that little bit of lack of fight, lack of aggression in that game. And when we're asked different questions and we have to show a different side to us, we came up short against Palace, let's be honest, and we ended up getting bullied a bit and we lost 1-0. And I felt like these wins over the last 2 games have really been wins that showed that fight, showed that aggression. It wasn't just about pretty football. Yes, there was really nice football in there. You look at the goal, the second goal we scored against Villa, beautiful football. The first goal against Man City, beautiful football. There's still that we can do that to any team. But what we really showed is we can muck in deep and we can be that. We can be up for the fight if we need to be as well. And I think maybe it was that Palace game kind of needed to happen to kind of be that learning curve that we've kind of sprung on. Because maybe if we undeservedly get something at that Palace game, maybe we don't learn the lessons that we needed to learn to play in the way that we have done in the last 2 games. Because City, we played a lot deeper, we played a bit more counter-attacking. It was a bit more of an ugly win. And I thought Villa on Sunday, again, they were trying to every step of the way slowing the game down. They were breaking up the game. They were making fouls. There was no shock to me there was 10 minutes added on at the end of the game, because Villa every stretch was stopping the game and making fouls and going down, and the physio was coming, all these different things to try and disrupt us. And yet we kept going, and we were up for the fight, and we were putting in challenges. We were doing tactical fouls on them. We were just as aggressive as they were. And I think we've really shown the last 2 games that maybe we've learned the lessons from the Palace game in terms of lack of fight.
I would agree with that. I would say you're seeing this team grow in front of our very eyes. However, I think even before that Crystal Palace game, and we touched on it last time we spoke last week, that I don't fear anyone at home. I feel like anyone coming to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, we can absolutely teach a lesson and we can batter them. And I think we've proved that throughout the season, apart from in the Arsenal game, which, some would say, some can argue we did deserve more out that game. What I want to see from this team, and I think someone said it earlier, is that away form and showing that resilience away from home, because we've only won 1 game away from home now. So I think that is the final sort of question. Not the final question, but that is another question now that Ange Postecoglou has to answer, because if we can't find this consistency and this resiliency away from home, then unfortunately this project isn't going to go anywhere. We need to find that resiliency away from home, and we haven't seen that just yet. We've seen these brilliant performances at home. Let's take that away on the road now.
Totally agree on that. Totally agree. I think I say, was it 9 points at the calendar year away from home? I mean, that's got to be improved upon. I know Lee often refers to, the second season of Pochettino and how we grew throughout that season. And to be fair, you could argue that maybe we're seeing parallels of that in relation to this season, because we are seeing that form pick up. I think the key thing is in that season we really did, and Lee's probably got the stats better than me, we kind of really did shaft a lot of those goals off in comparison to the previous season, but the away form did massively improve. And I think that is the key. I think when I look at a barometer for any good side, for me it is based on their away form and how do they go away from home. How do they navigate difficult challenges? How do they see out games? How do they come back in games? But I think, again, that stat from home, I know touched upon the away form, but the home form, that recoverable points that we've done since Ange has taken over, I mean, that's phenomenal. Forget about this term Spursy, and I'll let Lee come back in a second. That is anything but the opposite. When you look at the amount of points we've recovered since Ange has come through the door at home, has been phenomenal. And it's top because that man, as he always says, never stops, plays to the whistle, and full credit to him, because whatever we say about, the concerns of the away form, the home form, bar the Arsenal game this season, we've been pretty good.
I mean, can you hear me okay, though?
Yeah.
Because my picture is totally grainy, which is probably good for the viewers because they can't see my face.
Your picture's not grainy on our end.
Oh, that's just, well, at least you got bonus in there. Chat got bonus. In the 2015-16 season under Poch, we played 19 games, obviously away from home. We only lost 3. We won 9, drawn 7. So we've got 34 points just in our away form. And just for those context,
that's phenomenal.
We finished with 70 points. So it's basically half of our points that we got was actually away. When you actually look at the growth that you talked about as well in terms of under Poch, we played 10 games so far this year under Ange's second season. Poch's second season, 10 games, we had 17 points. We had 1 point extra to what we've got today. We were 6th in the table. And again, just to put some context behind that, West Ham were above us, United were above us, Crystal Palace sniffing around us. So it's very, very similar. I think the only key thing there is we drew a lot of games that season. By this point, we'd only lost 1 game in Poch's second season. I think another great comparison when you're looking at the data is last season. So last season, we actually had a better record than what Arne Slot's got. So Slot's getting all the plaudits, and rightly so. He seamlessly walked in there. But so did Ange. Ange came into a situation last season where we were playing turgid football. We had 5 managers in about 10 days. We just lost our best ever player on the literally 24 hours before Brentford. And Arne Slot, as a comparison, again, I think it's quite interesting. It's coming in after 7 years of stability, of rebuilding the team under Klopp, leaving it in a very, very good scenario. Just finished 3rd, and he's walked into that scenario. Now he's played 10, and won 8. But Ange had played 10 and won 8 and drawn 2. And Slots lost 1 at home to Forest. So we actually had a better record this time last year than Arne Slot. I think that's quite a good, interesting comparison. I think we said on the show last time, or certainly on last one on Spurs, is that what's really interesting is that we've now got 10 points worse off this time than we was last season. But I actually think, and again to echo everything that we've been saying, I actually think our performances and the way we're playing is better. Is miles better.
Well, the stats back that up. I think they showed on Sky Sports, didn't they, Macca? If you were watching yesterday, they compared some of the stats from our first 10 games last season to the first 10 games this season. Even though the results haven't been as good, I think performances have actually been better.
Statistically, I think we got higher XG and lower XG against, and if you want to add those together, we're statistically the 3rd best team in the league this season.
And that's why I highlighted very being selfish right at the beginning of the show when I said I predicted us to be 3rd, because all the underlying data is showing that's where the case is. Now, everybody told me last year, pipe down, Macca, stop talking about could we and that sort of thing. We're top of the league. I'm getting carried away. I'm absolutely loving it.
Happy days.
Pipe down. But actually, it doesn't matter where we are right now in the league, does it? Because everyone told me we're not going to win. We're never going to win it. So it doesn't matter where we are today. What matters is where we finish, which is the racehorse analogy that Ange was actually saying. But of course, lads, viewers and listeners, that is true, right? So we are now back in the pack, right? We've had a stumbling start. We maybe fell at the or tripped over one of the hurdles or hit a curb around one of the tight turns. But we're now back on the straight and narrow, and we're in the pack. So I know it's classic Spurs, and we shouldn't do this. And I can hear Jason McGovern, one of our own, going, "Don't say it."
One at a time.
I know, one at a time. I know we've got Galatasaray. I totally agree with you, Rick, by the way, in terms of Galatasaray this week. It doesn't matter. Just go and put as many kids on as you can and give them the real experience Galatasaray away, because that's going to be some major cauldron and an amazing experience for them. But, coming to the game on Sunday, it's a big if with Tottenham. I'm sorry to use the word if, team, but if we beat Ipswich, we are going to probably go either above Arsenal and or Chelsea, and both of them, if they draw, we can be sitting 3rd in the Premier League in the international break. That is absolutely crazy. It's like mind-blowing. This league is bonkers. 3 weeks ago, we were Ange out. Well, some of us were. And now ultimately,
looking down. Who?
Did you see that all the Arsenal fans trying to tamper Lee's connection? Have you picked up on that there? As soon as Lee mentioned Arsenal, his connection started to grain there for a second.
Yeah, exactly.
But how funny is football though in the space of a month?
There's 4 points between. I think it's 4 points, 6 points between 3rd and 12th or something. So it's so tight. It is ridiculously tight.
And Sim, I've got to say this. I think this league. I mean, I'm not. Listen, Mac is your points accumulator, right? I'm not that kind of guy. But the reality is, I do think this league is not going to be won by a sufficient amount of points as what has been done in the previous seasons. Because what worries me is with Man City, I'm really struggling to see their motivation right now. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but they've won the league 4 times. They've won the Champions League. They've won the League Cup. They've won the FA Cup. They've got these charges hanging over them. You got
PEP, Rick.
I know he's amazing. I know.
And also, Rodri being out's a massive blow, isn't it? You can see it.
And also, I don't want to go too much
can we hold
down
on
the
a
road.
second? Why are we talking about Man City here? Why are we talking about
Man
Man
City?
City?
Because we just beat Villa, Ben.
Rick,
Come on.
Are you starting to believe, Ricky?
I'm just generalising the picture around the top of the league.
You're starting to believe. I can tell. You're starting to believe.
He's already checking City's results. He's now checking City's results on the weekend. What's going on?
I just think, boys, it's a really, I honestly think if we can string a decent cut of wins together, and the key thing is, that Ipswich game, we can actually win that and go into a bloody international break on the back of a win, which I can't remember the last time we've had a win on the back of an international break. The confidence I'll give the boys to come back, and I always say, end of November, beginning of December, that is where business is really truly starting. FA Cup kicks into play. We've got the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup in there. You've got Europa League that starts to get a bit more serious as we come to the back end of that group as well. That's the thing with the Europa League as well. If we can get a few more positive results in there, you go into a situation with match day 5 and 6 where you genuinely can start to rotate, as Macca says, and bring the kids those opportunities to play. And then you have got that emphasis on the Premier League. But I think the reality is at the moment is that it's a league where, as Macca said, anybody can beat anybody. And we've got to really home in on that. And I think if we can, as you said there, Ben, at the top of the show, address the away form, we could have a really, really good season. But that away form is absolutely critical. And we mustn't get away from that and shy away from that. I don't think Ange is shying away from that. And I will say that point around set pieces, the narrative around media outlets over the weekend, as soon as Spurs conceded from that corner, oh my God, Spurs have got a set piece problem. I mean, I think, what is it, 2 of the last 68 openings have been from set pieces. So the utter, I don't want to swear on this show, that is being banged around about the narrative around set pieces, it's nowhere near as bad as last season. We are learning our lessons. Can I be honest with you? I know Lee's a massive Vicario fan. I think he's a tremendous shot stopper, but I am concerned in relation to the dominance of the 6-yard box, because I think, as Roy Keane said about Schmeichel, you know, you've got to be prepared to go and kill in that 6-yard box. That's got to be where that is your home, that is your dominant area, and that's why I'm worried about it.
I still, sorry to interrupt, but I still think there's major growth there. Like, in goalkeeping terms, this boy is a young lad. He's only 27 years old in goalkeeping terms. And I think, you know, when we're talking about the goalkeeper, rightly so, I think there is a couple of concerns about his flapping at certain things. He didn't flap or anything at the weekend, though, so I think that's a bit unfair.
Yeah, what can he do for the goal?
Day.
Yeah,
I just think
he had a big flap against City, though. He did have a big flap against City.
I just think it's more that assertive. It's more the assertiveness, boys. Just let Macca come back in there. For me, it's more the assertive, the dominance, saying this 6-yard box is mine. You ain't coming to claim anything here, and no one's going to get any form of an advantage. And I think, as Lee says, he is very young, Vicario. There's growth to be had there, but he's got to grow into that. Because as a goalkeeper, great being a shot stopper, but he's got to, I think, command that box a lot more. Definitely,
I agree. But I think he came under a bit unwarranted criticism on the weekend. Just, I know he conceded and he kind of was stuck on his line, but look, at the end of the day, Porro gets a flick on at the near post. It goes in. Bentancur nearly scores an own goal, and he makes a save. So I don't know what he could have actually done in that situation, Vicario, to be honest. I think he did well just to keep it out. And if anything, the defenders should have been reacting quicker to that situation. And other than that, I mean, I guess Onana had a chance from a set piece as well. But I guess 2 chances is... You know, you don't want to give away 2 chances.
I don't think we're the best team in the league by any stretch of the imagination from the set pieces, but we're definitely a lot better than we were last season. Yeah, so
100%.
I think progression is the key point here. As long as we're showing signs of progression and we're moving forward, I think that's the main thing that we should be looking at.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's fair. I mean, as long as we're not sitting here saying Vicario's rubbish, we need a new number 1, because that's just completely premature. Also, just going back to the point you made earlier, Rick, I thought it was a really good point about when the season starts getting started. When you look at last season after 10 games, obviously we were top of the league, classic, and Arsenal and Man City were only a couple of points behind us. I think, in fact, Arsenal were on the same sort of points. When you fast forward that 20 games in, we dropped from 1st to 5th. We had an absolute shocker with all the injuries, as we know. But Liverpool were 5 points clear of Man City, right? 20 games in. And Arsenal were only 1 point clear of Tottenham, 20 games in. And they ended up beating us by 24 points or something ridiculous. So, you know, I just want to, look, I am Mr. Optimistic, don't get me wrong. And I love getting carried away. And, you know, that's one of the key things. But I know we're going to come on to Arsenal a bit later on, Sim, but that's a bit of a warning there that we went through not only that 10 games, that first 10 games, then we got the injuries. Then that second lot of 10 games, i.e. to 20, didn't do too bad. It was the bit after that we were absolutely shocking. And City being 5 points behind Liverpool at 20 games in, and they still want the league over Liverpool in the end. So the best is yet to come from Man City, to address your point about motivation, and also with Arsenal as well. So I just think we've got to enjoy the game. To come back to your point, Ben, we just smashed Villa, and everyone's telling me Villa, Unai Emery, absolute tactical genius, this, that, and the other. Yet we've absolutely ruined them. Again, I'm going to say again, because we ruined them the last time we played them as well, didn't we?
But last season, I felt like most of our best performances obviously is when we had like a settled 11, right? Especially in those first 10 games. Like, obviously we had some good performances when we had injuries, but by and large, when we had to make too many changes, a lot of changes, right? We did struggle to with those changes, and we struggled to kind of get a rhythm. But I think we're not getting enough credit maybe for how we've if you look at like the depth of the squad over the last couple games, we've had some big issues. And maybe last season, if we had similar problems to the team teams that we had in the first 11, we maybe wouldn't have coped as well as we have this season. You look at the City game, for a large part of that game, our back four was Gray, Dragoshin, Davis, and Udogie. If you look at the Villa game on Sunday, Son went off after 50 minutes. Again, we ended the game with Dragoshin and Davis as our back two. We had Richarlison also had to go off injured. We had Maddison didn't even play. Like, he came on with 10 minutes to go. He wasn't one of our main players on the day. We had like serious disruption in our team, and yet the squad depth is coping at the moment. And it's not just coping, it's thriving, and we're getting these big wins. And people still look at our team as if it's got no squad depth. Yet have we not proven over the last 2 games that our depth is, if anything, a lot better than last season, which we knew for sure, but maybe it deserves more credit because there's still a lot of players in there who we're still very excited about. Bergvall didn't play. We're still on Mikey Moore there who didn't play. Werner scored on Wednesday. He didn't get involved. I know whatever you want to say about Werner, but he scored on Wednesday against Man City. His tail is up, and he didn't play on yesterday. So, does our squad depth deserve a bit more credit?
Yeah, I think we've all been speaking about the squad depth over the past couple of weeks, where you look at the number 6 position, you don't care who comes in, whether it be Basuma or Bentancur. You got Pape Sarr and James Maddison fighting for that spot, 2 very, very good players. Pape Sarr is playing out of this world at the moment. I mean, that guy's performance against Aston Villa was phenomenal, and you look back at his performances last season in the first half of the season, I think that was better than any of his performances last season. I mean, that was a performance of the highest degree. You've got number 9s, you've got Richarlison, you've got Dom Solanke. Richarlison's coming on and making the A. He's gone out injured at the moment. You've got Dragoshin stepping in and absolutely putting in a worldie as well at the weekend and against Man City. So I think the squad depth, when you're looking at it, in every area of the pitch, bar maybe the fullbacks, I think you've got major squad depth. Sorry,
I think
Rick.
in a way that's fine. No problem at all. And I love hearing what you're saying there, Ben. I think it's interesting now. Obviously, we know that Romero looks like he's probably out between a minimum of 9 to 15 days at the moment with regards to this potential injury that he's got. Doesn't appear to be a fracture or a break. But what that will do is give Dragoshin the opportunity to carry on his running the side. And I think he needs that for his confidence as well. I think the hard thing is that generally, when you're having a player that's been stop-start so far, we haven't really seen the best of Dragoshin yet. And I think it's very hard for any player to get any sense of a rhythm if they are not playing regular football. So what this period will do between now and the Ipswich game, where we'll hopefully get the next couple of games, is give him that opportunity to play 3 games on the bounce where he's not had that opportunity to do so beforehand. And I think, Dragoshin's got a lot of growth in him as well. But he's a player that wants to play football, wants to prove his point in this side. And I'm sorry, this might come across really, what's the word I'm looking for? Cheeky, what I'm going to say here, but what a shame for Romero. Misses international duty with Argentina, and he's got to come back and play for Tottenham. Can't make it up. I mean, as a little subtle thing.
He probably played for Argentina, wouldn't he? And by the way, just on the Dragusin, Enter the Dragon. I bet his agent is loving it right now. Dragusin playing 2 games. He's loving it. I agree with you. I agree. Dragusin, I think he's played really, really well. And actually, I put a tweet out about Ben Davies. I thought it was excellent as well. But this is the reason why you rotate. I know it's a risk when you go into the Carabao Cup games and you change it around, or the Europa League. But these guys coming in last season, they were cold. And Ange made this point. I don't want to keep. It's like I make these points, and then Ange is making them. It's like, oh, Lee's copying Ange. Like, no, Ange is copying me. Right? You know what I mean? I've made these. No, but it's true. They're not coming in from the cold. Do you know what I mean, lads? They're coming in already feeling part of the team. I think we spoke about this last week together, when they're feeling part of the team. They're feeling that they're contributing. I mean, everyone that played against Man City will contributed. Ben Davies is a core part of us winning the game against Aston Villa, just with that tackle on Ollie Watkins that basically got us moving for that goal. And also him and Dragusin were excellent against Man City as well. So they're coming in, they're not cold, and they're feeling part of something that's building. And I think that's really, really important. So again, fair dues to Ange, because he's managing. I said on my little clip video, if you caught it on social media, I think he's getting everything right at the moment. And there will be a time when he doesn't, and there's already been times where he hasn't. But at the moment, everything he's doing, the substitutions, the game management, the little tweaks, taking inverted fullbacks to overloading fullbacks in the changing game, everything that everyone was telling us before, can't do this, won't do that. He's doing it all. And it's working. And long may that continue, lads.
Yeah, I know, and he says in the press conference, whenever he gets these questions said about him about tactical tweaks or things, he's like, yeah, that's not a problem, And then, but he's in the background working on things, so I have no doubt that, you know, all these problems and issues that people have about the way we set up or tactical things or away form or whatever it may be, Ange is going to be working on it in the background, and he will get it right eventually, in my opinion. A couple of super chats to get through. Dark Sun G says, this shows we are a few players short of a perfect squad. Backup left back, left centre back, and a goalkeeper to take Davis and Forster's squad after this season, and a backup winger to Johnson. I mean, I would say that's spot on, and I think probably Johnny Cardozo probably comes in the summer. And if Johnny Cardozo does come in, you would imagine that one of Bentancur or Bissouma have got to be the full guys. I mean, which guy do you think it would be?
Well, firstly, there's never ever a perfect squad. I mean, if you go and speak to Pep and go, Pep, do you think you've got a perfect squad? He's going to say no.
Nope.
So I disagree with the word being perfect. There's nothing perfect in this world, and there's nothing perfect in football. It's a little bit like, as Poch used to say all them years ago, put the new furniture in your house. Once you start decorating your house, you start with the front room and go around your house, do all your bedrooms, do your bathrooms, come back round. The front room needs doing again, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, nothing's ever finished. It never is. It's always ongoing. So that's the key thing. But I do think in terms of players, the positions highlighted, definitely we need to strengthen them positions. But once we do that, there'll be another position that we need to strengthen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just like you pump them again.
Absolutely.
If you're striving for perfection, forget about it. The perfection in life, perfection in business, perfection in sport, it doesn't exist. Does not exist. So you are on the road to a hiding if you think perfection, if you're chasing perfection, in my humble opinion. But what we want to do is we want to improve. And it's, again, I sound like Ange, I'm really sorry, but you want to improve every time. Every time you want to be able to improve. But there's no end point. The end point doesn't exist. It's a continuous journey, and that's what we've got to all realise. Some of us, don't like the word project and don't like the word where we are, and I totally get that. We are fed up. We are fed up with waiting. But perfection and what we're striving towards is getting better and better and being able to compete. And I think we're getting a lot of that right, to be honest, Ben.
Not long to wait now, Lee, because Ange always wins a trophy in his second season, doesn't he? So I'm sure something's coming this year.